Her ex-husband, my boss, just walked into the room. She grabbed my face, pulled me close, and kissed me hard. Her lips tasted of expensive scotch and desperation, and I could smell the jasmine from her perfume, mixed with the stale cigarette smoke of the rooftop bar. Right against my mouth, so quiet only I could hear it, she whispered, "Play along. I'll make it worth your while." I was just the handyman, the guy who lived in the building's basement, and suddenly, I was entangled in a world that wasn't mine. I remembered her saying, just weeks before, "It must be lonely down there." I knew this could cost me everything, my job, my home, my future, but in that moment, with her trembling in my arms, I couldn't pull away. If you're watching this right now, tell me where you're from in the comments. Because I still don't know if what we did was wrong. I'm still sitting in the basement, listening to the boiler hum. It's the heartbeat of this building. A low, steady thrum that vibrates right through the concrete floor and up into the soles of my boots. Most nights, it helps me sleep. Tonight, it just reminds me of everything I'm about to lose. I have a sketchbook open in front of me, but the page is blank. I can't draw. I can't think about angles or light or load-bearing walls. All I can think about is the taste of whiskey and the smell of jasmine and stale cigarette smoke. And her eyes. I keep replaying that moment at the rooftop bar, the way the music seemed to stop, the way her hand felt cold when it grabbed the back of my neck. It wasn't romantic, not at first. It was panic. I saw him walk in, Victor, the man who signs my paychecks, the man who owns the roof over my head. I saw the color drain out of her face. Then she turned to me. She didn't look at me like the handyman. She looked at me like I was the only life raft in the middle of a freezing ocean. She pulled me down. Her lips crashed against mine, soft, desperate tasting of expensive scotch. And then she whispered it, right against my mouth, so no one else could hear. Her ex showed up. She kissed me and whispered, "Play along. I'll make it worth your while." I should have pushed her away. I should have remembered that I had $24 in my bank account and a mother in a care home depending on me not getting fired. But I didn't. I put my hand on her waist, and I pulled her closer. To understand why I did that, you have to understand where we started. You have to understand the silence in the penthouse and the noise in the basement. It didn't start with a kiss. It started with a broken lamp. 3 weeks ago, my alarm went off at 5 a.m. The basement has no windows. You tell time by the boiler. When the pressure kicks up for the morning showers, the pipes rattle. That's my wake-up call. I rolled off the mattress. It's a saggy thing I pulled from a tenant's trash last year. I made instant coffee on the concrete counter next to my sink. The air down here always smells like dust and damp metal. I checked my phone. The screen was cracked, but I could read the notification from the maintenance app. Unit PHB, Master Bedroom, Lamp Flickering. Penthouse B, the Costa Residence. I swallowed the bitter coffee and pulled on my work shirt. It's gray, with a patch that says Eric over the pocket. I checked the corkboard by the door. The late notice for my mom's care home was still pinned there. Red letters. Final warning. I touched the paper, just for a second. A reminder of why I swallow my pride every day. I took the service elevator up. It smells like cleaning chemicals and garbage bags. But when the doors opened on the penthouse floor, the air changed. It was cool, silent. It smelled like fresh lilies and lemon polish. I knocked on the heavy oak door. Helena opened it. I'd seen her in the lobby before, usually behind sunglasses, rushing to a waiting car. Up close, she was different. She was wearing a silk robe, tied tight. Her hair was loose. She looked tired. Beautiful, but in a way that looked heavy, like carrying her own beauty was exhausting. "You're early," she said. Her voice was low. Boiler wakes me up, I said. Sorry, I can come back. No, please, come in. She led me down the hallway. My boots squeaked on the marble. I felt huge and clumsy, like a bull in a glass shop. The master bedroom was bigger than my entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over the ocean. The gray morning light was just starting to hit the water. It's that one, she said, pointing to the bedside lamp. I knelt down. While I worked on the wiring, I tried not to look around. But I noticed things. I'm studying to be an architect. I always notice the space. The bed was massive, king size, but only one side was slept in. The pillows on the left were perfectly fluffed, untouched. On the nightstand there was a book, face down, and 2 wine glasses. One was empty, with a lipstick stain on the rim. The other was full. Dust had settled on the surface of the wine. She'd poured a drink for someone who never came. It's just a loose connection, I said, twisting the wire nut. Old building. The vibrations loosen them up. The vibrations, she repeated. She was standing by the window, arms crossed. Is that what that hum is? That's the boiler. It's right next to my room in the basement. She turned to look at me. You live in the basement? Yes, ma'am. Part of the job. She looked at my hands, then at my face. It wasn't a judgmental look. It was curious, sad. Must be lonely down there, she said quietly. I clicked the lamp on. The light was steady, warm. I'm used to it, I said. I stood up, wiping my hands on my rag. All set, Mrs. Costa. Helena, she corrected. Please. I nodded. I headed for the door, anxious to get back to my own world. I pressed the button for the service elevator. Eric? I turned back. She was leaning in the doorway of the bedroom. Thank you, she said, for fixing the light. I hate the dark. I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded again. The elevator doors closed between us, sealing her back into her silence and taking me back down to the noise. Later that day, I was in the maintenance room with Jonas. Jonas is a good guy, but he talks too much. He was organizing wrenches, whistling some pop song. So, he said, grinning. How's the penthouse princess? I stiffened. The light was broken. I fixed it. That's it. Man, I heard she's intense, Jonas laughed. Concierge says her husband is never around. Says she orders dinner for 2 every night just to throw half of it away. Mind your business, Jonas, I muttered. I went back to the basement for dinner. Pasta with butter. Again. I sat at my small table, sketching a doorway I'd seen in a magazine. My phone buzzed. I expected a work order, but it was a text from a number I didn't have saved. Hi, it's Helena from upstairs. The dimmer in the dining room is acting up. I know it's late, but could you pass by? She shouldn't be texting me. There's a protocol. Everything goes through the building app, so management can track hours. I stared at the phone. If I went, it was off the books. I typed back, I'll be there in 5. When I got upstairs, she was dressed. Jeans and a soft sweater. She looked less like a statue and more like a person. Sorry to text you directly, she said. The app is so slow, and I hate waiting. The dimmer switch was fine. I knew it was fine before I even touched it. I pretended to tighten a screw anyway. You're studying, right? She asked. She was leaning against the marble island, holding a glass of water. What? I saw the book in your back pocket this morning. Principles of Modern Design. I felt my face heat up. Yeah, I'm taking night classes, slowly. That's wonderful, she said. She sounded like she meant it. This building, it has good bones, doesn't it? Underneath all the gaudy renovations Victor insisted on. Victor. The husband. The bones are good, I agreed. 1920s steel frame. You don't see that anymore. We talked for 20 minutes. Just about walls, about light, about how the ocean air eats the mortar. She listened to me. She didn't look at her phone. She didn't look over my shoulder. She looked at me. When I left, I passed Marta in the hallway. Marta lives in 4B. She knows everything about everyone. She was checking her mail at 8 p.m. She looked at me coming out of the penthouse. Then she looked at the door. Working. Late, Eric, she chirped. Her eyes were sharp, like a bird's. Just a dimmer switch, Mrs. Alves, I said, keeping my head down. Must be a very stubborn switch. I got back to the basement and my phone buzzed again, a notification from my banking app. You received $100. Then a text from Helena. Thank you, Eric. I stared at the money. That was groceries for 2 weeks. It was too much. It felt transactional, but also personal. I texted back, you don't have to do that. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. I know, she wrote. Good night. Over the next few days, the texts became a routine. The pantry door squeaks. The balcony light is buzzing. The faucet in the guest bath is dripping. Half the time, there was nothing wrong. I'd go up, turn a wrench on something that was already tight, and we'd talk. I learned things. I learned she hated the silence of the apartment. I learned she played classical music not because she liked it, but because it filled the space. I was under her kitchen sink one afternoon, replacing a perfectly good washer when she sighed. I have to host this gallery fundraiser on Friday, she said. She was chopping vegetables, just for herself. Victor insists. He says it's good for business. Sounds fancy, I said from the floor. It's awful, she said. The knife hit the cutting board hard. Chop, chop. Standing there for 3 hours, holding a drink I don't want, smiling at people who are only looking at my jewelry. She paused. He won't be there until late, if he comes at all. I crawled out from under the sink. You'll do fine. You're good at that. At what? Pretending? She laughed, but it was a brittle sound. I suppose I am. She looked down at me. I was on my knees, wiping grease off my hands. She was standing above me, surrounded by marble and copper. Do you like art, Eric? I like architecture, I said. Same thing, she murmured. Maybe you could help. With the setup. I need someone who knows how to hang heavy frames without ruining the plaster. I can do that, I said. Put in a work order. No, she said quickly. I'll pay you cash, extra, just come up before. Please. There was a crack in her voice, just a hairline fracture. If I wasn't listening for it, I would have missed it. Okay, I said. I'll help. Friday came, the day of the fundraiser. I spent the morning unclogging a drain on the second floor. Real glamorous stuff. My phone kept buzzing in my pocket. It was the care home administrator. I took the call in the stairwell. Mr. Novak, she said. Her voice was too polite. We still haven't received the payment for your mother's physical therapy. We can't continue the sessions without it. I know, I said, gripping the railing. I get paid on Monday, I promise. We've heard that before, Eric. If the account isn't current by the 1st, we'll have to discuss transfer options. Transfer options. That meant a state facility, a place where they sedate you just to keep you quiet. I'll get the money, I said. My voice shook. Don't move her. I hung up. I leaned my forehead against the cold concrete wall. I needed money, real money, not just handyman wages. That evening, I went to the bar down the street to meet Jonas. I needed a beer to settle my stomach. Jonas was already 3 deep. You hear about the boss? Jonas slurred. Victor? Yeah. Concierge says he's in town. Saw his car? The big black Mercedes? Jonas leaned in, whispering loud enough for the whole bar to hear. Word is he's selling the building. Or maybe he's divorcing the Queen. Either way, change is coming, buddy. My stomach dropped. If Victor sold the building, the new owners would bring in their own team. I'd be out. No job, no basement, no money for Mom. I finished my beer in one gulp. I gotta go, I said. Where are you going? The night is young. I have to work, I said. I walked back to the building. The penthouse windows were glowing way up high, a golden cage. My phone buzzed. Balcony door is jammed. I know it's late, but I can't close it. It was 10 p.m. I should have said no. I should have stayed in my lane. I went up. The penthouse was dark, except for the city lights flooding in through the glass. The balcony door was indeed open about 3 inches. The wind was whistling through the crack, carrying the sound of distant traffic and the ocean. Helena was standing on the balcony. She was wearing that silk robe again, hugging herself against the chill. "It won't budge," she said without turning around. I examined the track. A pebble got stuck in the roller. It happens. I popped the door off the track, cleared the debris and slid it back. It clicked shut, cutting off the wind. The silence rushed back in. "Thank you," she said. She turned around. She was holding a glass of amber liquid. Ice clinked softly. "Hazard pay," she said, holding it out to me. "I'm on the clock, technically." "Victor isn't here," she said, "and I hate drinking alone." I took the glass. It was heavy crystal. The whiskey burned going down, warm and smoky. We sat at the island. The marble was cool under my forearms. "Jonah says Victor is in town," I said. I don't know why I said it. Maybe to warn her. She stiffened. "Yes, he is." She took a long sip. "He wants me to sign papers," she said. "Separation papers. But the terms, they're cruel, Eric. He wants to say I'm unstable, that I can't maintain the apartment." She looked at her hands. They were trembling slightly. "If I lose this place," she whispered, "I don't have anywhere else. I gave up my career when we married. I gave up everything to be his hostess." She reached out and touched my wrist. Her fingers were cold. She traced the white line of an old scar I got from a jagged piece of sheet metal years ago. "You work so hard," she said softly. "You build things. You fix things. I just exist." "You're surviving," I said. My voice sounded rough in the quiet room. "That's work, too." She looked up at me. Her eyes were wide, dark pools. The air between us felt thick, electric. She leaned in. Just an inch. My heart hammered against my ribs. I could smell the jasmine perfume. I could see the tiny gold flecks in her irises. I wanted to kiss her. God, I wanted to kiss her. But then the image of the eviction notice flashed in my mind. Victor's face. My mom. I pulled back, gently. "I should go," I said. "The door is fixed." She blinked. The moment shattered. She pulled her hand away, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Of course," she said. Her voice was cool again. "Thank you, Eric. Don't forget about the gallery tomorrow, 6 p.m. "I won't," I said. I walked to the elevator. I didn't look back. The next evening, I stood in front of my small mirror in the basement. I was wearing my best shirt. It was a white button-down, but it was frayed at the collar. I tried to smooth it out, but the iron couldn't fix poverty. I looked like what I was, a handyman trying to play dress-up. My phone buzzed. "Come up. I have something for you." I went to the penthouse. Helena was ready. She was wearing a long, dark blue dress that shimmered like water. She looked expensive. Untouchable. She held out a black blazer. "Put this on," she said. "I can't wear Victor's clothes," I said, stepping back. He left it here 3 years ago, she said. He's gained 20 pounds since then. It won't fit him. It will fit you. She held it open. I hesitated, then slipped my arms into it. It fit perfectly. It smelled like cedar and dry cleaning. It felt like armor. There, she said, adjusting the lapel. Her hands lingered on my chest for a split second. Now you don't look like staff. You look like you. We took her car. I sat in the back with her. The leather seats were soft. The driver didn't look at me. Just stick close to me, she said as we pulled up to the gallery. If anyone asks, you're consulting on the renovations for the building lobby. Am I? You are tonight. The gallery was bright, loud, and full of people holding tiny glasses of champagne. I felt a wave of panic. I didn't belong here. These people had shoes that cost more than my mother's medical bills. But Helena didn't leave my side. I fixed a crooked frame near the entrance, habit, and she laughed. It was a real laugh, not the polite tinkle she used with the neighbors. Stop working, she whispered, handing me a drink. Enjoy the art. For an hour, it was okay. We walked around. I critiqued the lighting. She told me which local socialites were sleeping with their tennis coaches. We were a team. I forgot about the basement. I forgot about the boiler. Then the air changed. I felt it before I saw him. Helena's spine went rigid. Her smile vanished like a blown-out candle. I turned. Walking through the crowd was a man I recognized from the portraits in the lobby. Victor. He was taller than me. He wore a suit that probably cost 10 grand. He moved through the room like he owned the air everyone was breathing. He spotted us. His eyes narrowed. He looked at Helena. Then he looked at me. He scanned me from shoes to face. He paused on the blazer. He recognized it. He smiled. It was a shark's smile. Helena, he said, stepping into our circle. I didn't expect to see you here, and certainly not with company. Victor, she said. Her voice was steady, but I could see the pulse jumping in her throat. And who is this? Victor asked. He didn't offer me his hand. This is Eric, she said. He's helping with the building, the renovations. Ah, the handyman, Victor said. He made the word sound like garbage man. I see you've raided my closet, Eric. Nice fit. I felt the blood drain from my face. I wanted to rip the jacket off right there. It was cold, Helena said quickly. I insisted. Victor stepped closer to her. He ignored me now. He lowered his voice, but I could hear every word. My lawyer sent the papers over this morning, Helena. You haven't signed them. I need time to review them, she said. There's nothing to review. You get the allowance, I get the apartment. You move out by the 1st. That was the deal. That wasn't the deal, she hissed. This is my home. It's my building, Victor said pleasantly. And you're becoming an embarrassment. Look at you, dragging the help to a gala because you have no friends left. It's pathetic, Helena. Everyone is staring. He looked around the room. Sign the papers, or I'll cut the allowance to 0. Tonight. Helena looked trapped. Her eyes darted around the room. People were watching. She looked at Victor's smug face. Then she looked at me. I saw the panic in her eyes turn into something else, something reckless. She took a step back, away from Victor. She reached out and grabbed the lapels of the jacket, his jacket, on my shoulders. I'm not alone, Victor, she said loud enough for the nearby group to hear, and I'm not moving out. Before I could process what was happening, she pulled me down. Her lips crashed onto mine. It wasn't a polite peck. It was a kiss. Hard. Real. She pressed her body against mine. I froze for a millisecond, shocked by the softness of her mouth and the desperation in her grip. Then instinct took over. My hands found her waist. I held her up. The room went silent. Victor gasped. She broke the kiss, but she didn't pull away. She kept her face inches from mine, her forehead resting against my chin. Her breath was shaking. "Play along," she whispered, so quiet only I could hear. "I'll make it worth your while." I looked up. Victor was staring at us. His face had gone from smug to purple. He looked like he'd been slapped. I looked at Helena. She was trembling. She needed me, not to fix a lamp, not to open a door. She needed me to be a shield. I tightened my grip on her waist. I looked Victor dead in the eye. "She's with me," I said. My voice was calm, deeper than usual. Victor stared at me. For a second, I thought he was going to fire me right there, scream at me, throw a punch. But he didn't. He's a businessman. He saw the crowd watching. He saw the iPhones raised, snapping photos. He couldn't make a scene. Not here. He let out a short, sharp laugh. It sounded like glass breaking. "Well," he said, buttoning his suit jacket, "that is interesting." He leaned in close to me. He smelled like expensive cologne and malice. "Enjoy the jacket, Eric," he whispered. "Don't get too comfortable in it. It's a rental." He turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd. Helena let out a breath that sounded like a sob. She buried her face in my shoulder. "Don't let go," she whispered. "Please, just get me out of here." I walked her to the exit. My arm was around her. Her head was on my shoulder. We reached the parking garage. The heavy concrete silence wrapped around us. The driver was waiting, but we stopped in the shadows between two pillars. She pulled away from me. She looked terrified. "I'm sorry," she said. "I'm so sorry, Eric. I couldn't let him win. I needed him to think I had someone, that I wasn't just waiting for him to kick me out." "You kissed me," I said. I could still taste her on my lips. "I know. I crossed a line. I put your job at risk, I know." She reached into her purse. Her hands were shaking so bad she could barely open the clasp. "I can pay you," she said. "Whatever you need, for tonight, for playing along." I reached out and stopped her hand. "I don't want your money, Helena." She looked up at me. "Then what do you want? Why did you help me?" I thought about the basement, the boiler, the way Victor looked at me like I was dirt. And I thought about the way she looked at me when we talked about architecture. "He's going to come after us," I said. "You know that, right? He's my boss. He's your husband." "He's an ex," she corrected. "And he's a bully. He only backs down when he thinks he's lost control." She took a step closer. The air in the garage felt suddenly very thin. "If we keep this up, just for a little while, until the papers are signed," she started, her voice trembling. "I can help you, Eric. I know people, architects, firms. I can get you out of that basement. I can change your life. I'll make it worth your while." It wasn't a bribe. It was a lifeline. I looked at her, really looked at her. She was messy, scared, and desperate. And she was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. I knew I was walking into a fire. I knew this could cost me everything. "Okay," I whispered. She exhaled, her shoulders dropping. "Okay?" "Okay," I said. We play along. End of chapter 8. The ride back to the building was quiet. Not the comfortable kind of quiet, but the heavy kind, like the air before a storm breaks. When I woke up the next morning, the basement felt smaller than usual. The boiler hummed its same old song, a low mechanical groan that rattled the pipes in my ceiling. Usually, I ignored it. That morning it sounded like a warning. I made my instant coffee. It tasted like burnt water. I checked my phone. No texts. Then, around 10, the buzz came. "We need to talk. Come up when you can. Use the service elevator." I went up. Helena was in the kitchen. The morning light in the penthouse was aggressive, bouncing off the white marble and the glass walls. She looked different in the daylight, less like the desperate woman in the parking garage, and more like the Mrs. Costa the building knew. She was wearing a silk blouse, buttoned to the top. Her hair was pulled back tight. She didn't offer me coffee. She pointed to a stool at the island. "We need rules," she said. Her voice was steady, but her hands were gripping the edge of the counter so hard her knuckles were white. "Rules," I repeated. "If we're going to do this, if we're going to make Victor believe I've moved on, we have to be smart. He's not stupid, Eric. He's cruel, but he's not stupid." She slid a piece of paper across the marble. It wasn't a contract. It was a list. 1. Public spaces only. 2. No touching unless he is watching. 3. No one else needs to know the truth. I looked at the list, then at her. "And what do I get?" I asked. "Besides a target on my back?" She softened then. The mask slipped just a fraction. "I told you I'd make it worth your while," she said quietly. "I know you want to be an architect. I know you sketch in that basement when you think no one is watching. I have contacts, Eric. Real ones. If this works, if I get my settlement and keep this apartment, I can open doors for you that you can't kick down yourself." I looked at her hands. They were manicured, perfect, and trembling slightly. "Okay," I said. "We follow the rules." She nodded. "Strictly professional, unless Victor is in the room." "Strictly professional," I agreed. I stood up to leave. I reached for my toolbox on the floor. As I straightened up, our eyes met. We were standing 3 feet apart. The air between us felt charged, heavy with the memory of the kiss from the night before. "Thank you," she whispered. "Don't thank me yet," I said. "We haven't fooled anyone yet." I walked out. I took the service elevator down. But the smell of her, that faint jasmine scent, stayed on my clothes for the rest of the day. It didn't take long for the building to notice. A luxury building is like a small village. Gossip travels through the vents faster than the air conditioning. Over the next week, the atmosphere shifted. It started with small things. I was fixing a radiator on the 3rd floor, and I heard 2 residents whispering in the hallway. They stopped talking as soon as they saw me, giving me that polite, tight-lipped smile people give the help when they think the help has stepped out of line. Then it was Jonas. We were eating lunch in the maintenance room, sitting on overturned buckets. Jonas was eating a sandwich that smelled like onions. "So," he said, chewing loudly, "you're moving up in the world." I didn't look up from my phone. "What are you talking about?" "The penthouse princess," he said. "I saw you 2 in the lobby yesterday. She held the door for you. Residents don't hold doors for us, Eric. We hold doors for them." "She was just being polite," I said. "She was looking at you like you were a steak dinner and she hadn't eaten in a week," Jonas laughed. But his eyes weren't smiling. "Be careful, man. Victor Costa signs our paychecks. You start playing in his backyard, you're gonna get bit." I brushed him off, but my stomach turned over. The real test came 2 days later. I was in the lobby, fixing a loose tile near the concierge desk. It was late afternoon. The light was gold and dusty. Helena walked in. She was carrying grocery bags, something she rarely did. Usually she had them delivered. I stood up, wiping grout from my hands onto my pants. "Let me help you with those," I said. It was my job. She stopped. She looked at me. Then she looked past me, toward the glass doors. Victor was walking in. He was on his phone, looking impatient. He saw us. He paused. Helena didn't flinch. She shifted the bags to one hand and reached out with the other. She touched my arm. Not a grab, just a light touch on my forearm. Her fingers were warm through my work shirt. "Thank you, Eric," she said loud enough for Victor to hear. "You're always so thoughtful." She smiled at me. It wasn't a polite smile. It was warm. Intimate. Victor stopped walking. He lowered his phone. He looked at her hand on my arm. His eyes narrowed, just a fraction. A predator assessing a threat. "Hello, Victor," Helena said, breezy and cool. She didn't let go of my arm. "Helena." He nodded. He looked at me. He didn't say my name. He just looked at my boots, then my dirty shirt, then my face. He smirked, as if the idea of me was a joke he didn't find funny. "Working hard?" Victor asked. "Always," I said. He didn't reply. He just walked past us to the elevator. When the doors closed behind him, Helena let go of my arm. She let out a long, shaky breath. "He saw," she whispered. "Yeah," I said. "He saw." I took the bags from her. We rode the elevator up in silence. But it wasn't the silence of strangers anymore. It was the silence of accomplices. The rules we made in the kitchen didn't last long. It was a Saturday night. I was in the basement trying to sketch a floor plan for a theoretical cafe, but the lines weren't coming out straight. My phone buzzed. Helena. "Kitchen lights are out. Can you come?" I went up. I expected a blown fuse. When I walked into the penthouse, the kitchen was dark, but the breaker wasn't tripped. I found Helena in the pantry. She was sitting on the floor, her back against the shelves of imported pasta and expensive oils. Her knees were pulled up to her chest. She was rocking slightly. "Helena?" I asked softly. She looked up. Her mascara was smeared. She looked young and small and terrified. "My lawyer called," she said. Her voice was thin. "Victor is contesting the settlement. He says I'm unstable. He says I'm erratic." She let out a choked laugh. "Erratic? Because I don't want to be married to a man who treats me like a piece of furniture." I sat down on the floor next to her. The tiles were cold. The pantry smelled of dried basil and expensive chocolate. "Breathe," I said. "I can't," she gasped. If he wins, if he takes the apartment, I have nowhere to go, Eric. I haven't worked in 15 years. I'm 44 years old and I don't know how to do anything except host dinner parties." "That's not true," I said. "It is," she said. She turned to me, her eyes searching mine. "I promised I'd make this worth your while. I wasn't lying." She pulled her phone from her pocket and opened an email. She shoved it toward me. It was a thread with a partner at a boutique architecture firm in the city. "I have a candidate for the apprenticeship program," Helena had written. "He's talented, unlicensed but raw talent. I'm sponsoring his application personally." I stared at the screen. She hadn't just promised. She had already done it. "You did this?" I asked. "I wanted you to have a way out," she whispered, "even if I don't." Something inside me broke. The distance I tried to keep, the employee wall I tried to build. It crumbled. I shifted closer. Our shoulders touched. She rested her head on my shoulder. It was heavy and warm. She smelled like wine and tears. We sat there for a long time. The hum of the refrigerator was the only sound. I wanted to wrap my arm around her. I wanted to tell her I'd fight Victor myself. But I didn't. I just let her lean on me. I almost kissed the top of her head. My lips hovered inches from her hair. I could feel the heat radiating off her. "Thank you," I whispered. She didn't answer. She just closed her eyes and breathed, her rhythm matching mine. We didn't talk about the pantry the next day, but the air between us had changed. A few nights later, she asked me to stay for a movie. "For appearances," she said. "Victor is in town. He might stop by." It was a flimsy excuse. We both knew it. We sat on the beige linen sofa. She was on one end, I was on the other. We watched some old black and white film where people spoke in rapid-fire accents. Halfway through, she stretched her legs out. Her foot clad in a wool sock, brushed against my calf. She didn't pull it back. I froze. It was such a small thing. A touch. But in that quiet room, with the city lights glowing outside the glass walls, it felt like shouting. "Do you ever think about leaving?" she asked, her eyes on the screen. "Every day," I said. "Where would you go?" "Somewhere quiet," I said. "Somewhere with windows that open to a street, not a boiler room." She turned to look at me. The light from the TV flickered across her face. "I think you'd build beautiful things, Eric." "I think you see things in people that aren't there," I said. "I see you," she said. The movie ended. The credits rolled. We sat in the dark for a minute too long. I stood up abruptly. "I should go, early shift." She walked me to the door. She stood close. Too close. I could see the fine lines around her eyes, the pulse in her neck. "Good night, Eric," she said. "Good night, Helena." I opened the door and stepped into the hallway. Marta was there. She was standing by her own door, holding a laundry basket that was clearly empty. She looked at me, then at Helena standing in the doorway in her lounge clothes. "Late night for maintenance," Marta chirped. Her smile was sharp enough to cut glass. "Emergency repair," I said, my voice tight. "Of course," Marta said. "This building is full of emergencies lately." She watched me walk all the way to the elevator. I could feel her eyes drilling into my back. The gossip wasn't a whisper anymore. It was a roar. By the middle of the week, I couldn't walk through the lobby without the concierge, a guy named Dave, giving me a look that was half impressed, half pitying. "Careful, kid," Dave muttered, as I picked up a package. "The higher you climb, the harder the drop." I went down to the maintenance room. Jonas was there, sharpening a blade. "You need to stop," Jonas said. He didn't look up. "Stop what?" "Whatever you're doing upstairs, I heard Victor's office called down for the security logs." My blood ran cold. "What?" "The camera logs, Eric. Hallways, elevators, service corridors. He's looking for something." Jonas put the blade down and looked at me. He looked scared. "There was a guy here 5 years ago," Jonas said quietly. "Before you. He got friendly with a lady on the 4th floor. Just friendly. Victor found out. The guy didn't just lose his job. Victor blacklisted him. Called every property management company in the city. Guy had to move back to Ohio because he couldn't get hired to change a light bulb in this state." I thought about my mom, Donna Rosa, the care home bill that was due on Friday. "I'm not doing anything wrong," I lied. "Doesn't matter," Jonas said. "Rich people don't need proof. They just need suspicion." That night, I got an email from Victor's executive assistant. Subject: Staff conduct reminder. All maintenance staff are reminded that personal interactions with residents are strictly prohibited. Fraternization will result in immediate termination and eviction from staff housing. It was a warning shot. I should have stopped. I should have blocked Helena's number and stayed in the basement. But then she texted me. "Storage room, next to my unit. I need help moving boxes. Please, I can't do it alone." I went. Like a moth to a flame. The storage room was narrow, dusty, and hot. It was filled with boxes of Christmas decorations and old winter coats, the detritus of a marriage that was ending. Helena looked exhausted. She was wearing a t-shirt and yoga pants, her hair in a messy bun. "He's selling the building," she said. She didn't say hello. She just dropped a box on the floor. "What?" "Victor, he's threatening to sell the building. If he sells, he liquidates the assets. My settlement gets tied up in escrow for years. He's trying to starve me out." She leaned against a stack of boxes. She looked defeated. "He knows, Eric. He knows I'm not really dating anyone. He knows I'm alone." "He doesn't know that," I said. "He smells fear," she said. He knows. I stepped closer. The room was so small our knees almost brushed. You're not alone, I said. It was a dangerous thing to say, but it was true. She looked up at me. Her eyes were wet. Why are you still here? She asked. You should run. You should run as far away from me as you can. I'm not running, I said. She reached out. Her hand came up to my chest. She smoothed the collar of my work shirt. It was an unconscious gesture, something a wife does for a husband. You're a good man, Eric, she whispered. You deserve better than this mess. Her fingers lingered on my collarbone. I covered her hand with mine. For a second, just a second, we stood there, anchored to each other in the dust and the heat. I didn't kiss her. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But I didn't. I squeezed her hand, then let go. I'll move the boxes, I said. We finished the work in silence. What we didn't know, what neither of us noticed, was the small black dome on the ceiling of the hallway outside. The camera I thought was broken. It wasn't broken. And it had a perfect view of the open storage room door. 3 days later, the summons came. Not a text. Not a call. A formal letter slid under my door. Please report to Mr. Costa's office immediately. I put on my cleanest shirt. I tried to brush the drywall dust off my pants. My hands were shaking. Victor's office was on the top floor of a commercial tower downtown. It was all glass and steel and air conditioning that was set too cold. Victor was sitting behind a desk that cost more than my mother's care for a year. He didn't stand up when I walked in. Sit, he said. I sat. The leather chair swallowed me. Victor didn't yell. He didn't look angry. He looked bored. He picked up a tablet from his desk and slid it across to me. Take a look, he said. I looked. It was a still image, grainy, black and white, but clear enough. It was me and Helena, in the doorway of the storage room. From the angle, it didn't look like she was fixing my collar. It looked like she was caressing my chest. It looked like we were lovers pausing before parting ways. Another photo, the lobby, her hand on my arm. Another, me leaving her apartment at 11:00 p.m. I felt the blood drain from my face. I can explain, I started. Victor held up a hand. Don't insult my intelligence, Eric. He leaned back, steepling his fingers. I don't care who my wife sleeps with, he said. Technically. But I do care about my employees taking advantage of vulnerable residents. It's a liability. He paused. And it's a breach of contract. He opened a folder on his desk. I could fire you today, he said. I could evict you by tonight. I could call the police and file a complaint about theft of services. I could make sure you never work in this city again. He watched me. He wanted to see me squirm. He wanted to see the fear. He got what he wanted. I thought of my mom. I thought of the basement. I thought of the snow coming in 2 months and having nowhere to sleep. What do you want? I asked. My voice sounded hollow. I want you to stop, he said. Completely. You don't speak to her. You don't text her. You don't go to the penthouse unless the roof is caving in, and even then, you send Jonas. He leaned forward. His eyes were dead cold. She's going through a phase, Eric. She's lonely, she's aging, and she's grasping at straws. Don't confuse pity with affection, and don't think for a second that she would choose a handyman over her lifestyle. He took the tablet back. Get out of my office and stay out of my wife's life, or I will ruin yours. I walked out. I didn't feel my legs. I felt like I was floating, untethered, drifting into a void. I got back to the basement. I sat on the edge of my sagging mattress. I pulled out my phone. I needed to tell her. I needed to warn her. But the message was already there. For your sake and mine, this has to stop. Please don't come up unless it's official work. I'm sorry. She had gotten the call, too, or maybe Victor had visited her first. It didn't matter. The tone was clear. It wasn't a negotiation. It was a goodbye. I stared at the screen until it went black. I'm sorry. 2 words. That was it. I deleted her contact name. I changed it to Penthouse, work only. For the next week, I became a ghost in my own building. I worked, I fixed leaks, I painted walls, but I moved through the service corridors like a shadow. If a call came from the Penthouse, I sent Jonas. She asked for you, Jonas told me once, looking confused. Tell her I'm busy, I said. I was sanding a door frame, scrubbing hard enough to take the wood off. Eric. I'm busy, Jonas. I saw her sometimes. From a distance. I saw her in the lobby, wearing big sunglasses, looking pale. She didn't look at me. She looked straight ahead, walking fast, like she was holding her breath. I saw her in the elevator with other residents, laughing a laugh that sounded brittle and fake. The gossip died down. Marta moved on to complaining about the recycling bins. The building forgot about Eric and Helena. But I didn't. Every night I stood in the courtyard. I stood in the dark, behind the hedges, looking up. The penthouse windows were glowing. A golden box in the sky. One night I saw a silhouette move past the glass. Then another. A man's silhouette. Victor. I watched as the lights in the living room went out. Then the lights in the hallway. The building was silent. The boiler hummed beneath my feet, vibrating through the soles of my boots. She had made her choice. She chose the marble island. She chose the safety. She chose the husband who treated her like furniture, because at least he kept the roof over her head. I turned away from the light. I walked back down the concrete stairs to the basement. I closed the door. I turned off my lamp. I lay in the dark, listening to the pipes rattle, and I realized that Victor was right about one thing. I was just the help. And the help doesn't get the girl. The help just fixes the mess she leaves behind. End of chapter 16. You'd think silence would be peaceful. But when you live next to a boiler that rattles 24 hours a day, silence just feels like holding your breath. For a week, that's what I did. I held my breath. I tried to kill the hope. I tried to drown it in work. I took extra shifts. I scraped grout until my knuckles bled. I organized the tool room 3 times. But obsession is a quiet thing. It doesn't scream. It just waits. I started timing my trash runs. I knew her schedule better than I knew my own class timetable. Pilates at 10 a.m., back by 11:15 a.m. I'd find myself in the lobby at 11:10, polishing the brass railing on the staircase, just so I could see the revolving door spin, just to see if she looked tired, just to see if she was wearing the coat I liked. It was pathetic. I knew it was pathetic. Jonas knew it too. "You're gonna wear a hole in that railing, man," he said one morning, leaning on his mop. He wasn't smiling. "She's not coming down, Eric. And if she does, Victor's driver is waiting out front." He was right, but I couldn't stop. I stood in the courtyard on my lunch break, pretending to check my phone, but my eyes were locked on the penthouse balcony. I saw the maid shaking out a rug. I saw a delivery guy go up. I never saw her. I reread her old messages, the ones about paint colors, the ones about music. The one where she said, "You make this place feel less like a museum." I read them until the words lost their meaning. Then I'd look at the last one. "Penthouse, work only. For your sake and mine, this has to stop." It wasn't just a text. It was a wall, a glass wall, thick and soundproof, just like the one around her apartment. One night, I fell asleep at my small table, my head resting on a stack of unpaid bills. The boiler hummed its low, angry note. I dreamt she was knocking on my door. I woke up. The door was shut. The silence was deafening. 3 days later, I went to check my rent box. It was the end of the month. I was expecting the usual slip, the reminder that the rent was due, or maybe a notice from Victor's office about staff conduct. I opened the metal slot. There was no official letterhead, no typed warning, just a plain white envelope. My name was written on the front in black ink. Eric. I knew that handwriting. I'd seen it on sticky notes attached to work orders. I'd seen it on the check she tried to give me the first night we met. My stomach dropped. I looked around the mailroom. It was empty, smelling of floor wax and old paper. I took the envelope and shoved it into my pocket. I didn't open it until I was back in the basement, with the door locked and the deadbolt thrown. My hands were shaking. I thought it was money. A payoff. Here's $5,000, sorry for the trouble, please disappear. If it was money, I was going to tear it up. I ripped the flap open. Something hard slid out onto my mattress. A plastic keycard, plain white, no building logo, and a folded piece of heavy, expensive paper. I unfolded it. Inside was a photocopy of a lease agreement. Tenant, Eric Novak. Guarantor, Helena Costa. Role, design studio, commercial use. I stared at the address. It was a street-level unit 2 blocks away. A small commercial space below the old cafe on 4th Street. There was a sticky note attached to the keycard. You said you hated working underground. This one has windows, no strings. H. I sat there for a long time. The boiler clanked, a metal heartbeat in the wall. She hadn't sent money. She hadn't sent an apology. She had sent me a way out. I walked to the address the next afternoon. I told Jonas I had a doctor's appointment. I lied. I felt like I'd been lying to everyone for months now. The neighborhood was quieter than ours. Less marble, more brick. The unit was right on the street, with a big glass window covered in brown paper from the inside. I stood in front of the door. The keycard felt heavy in my pocket. No strings? There are always strings. Rich people don't do things for free. Victor taught me that. But Helena wasn't Victor. I tapped the card against the reader. The light turned green. The lock clicked. I pushed the door open. The smell hit me first. Fresh paint. Dust. And underneath it, faint jasmine. The paper was still on the windows, filtering the sunlight into a warm, golden haze. The floors were raw concrete, but clean. The walls were freshly painted white. It was empty, except for a simple wooden desk in the corner and a single folding chair, and a folder sitting on the desk. I walked over. My boots echoed in the empty space. It sounded different than the basement. It sounded open. I opened the folder. It was full of emails, correspondence between Helena and a small architecture firm in the city. She had recommended a promising young designer for freelance drafting work. She hadn't just rented me a room. She had built me a bridge. I ran my hand over the desk. It was solid oak. I wasn't sure if you'd come. I spun around. She was standing in the doorway of the back room. She wasn't wearing her usual silk armor. She was wearing jeans, a dark sweater. Her hair was pulled back in a messy knot, and she looked real. She looked tired. There were shadows under her eyes that makeup couldn't hide. Helena, I said. My voice cracked. She took a step forward, then stopped. She stayed near the wall, like she didn't want to intrude on the space she'd just paid for. I didn't want to be here when you arrived, she said quietly. I didn't want you to think this was a trap. Is it? I asked. She shook her head. No, the lease is in your name. I just signed the guarantee. The rent is paid for 6 months. After that, it's up to you. I looked around the room. I looked at the window where the light was trying to get in. Why? I asked. She wrapped her arms around herself. "Because I couldn't sleep," she whispered. "Thinking about you down there in the dark, fixing everyone else's lives while yours stayed stuck." "You cut me off," I said. I didn't mean to say it so sharply, but the hurt was still there. "I had to." Her eyes flashed. "Victor. He knows, Eric. He doesn't know everything, but he knows enough. He showed me the photos. He threatened to have you fired, to have you blacklisted." She took a breath. "I couldn't let him take this away from you, so I pushed you away. It was the only way to make him stop looking." I looked at her. Really looked at her. I saw the fear she lived with, the constant high-wire act of keeping Victor calm, keeping her life stable, keeping up appearances. She had risked that stability to give me this key. "You paid for this yourself," I said. It wasn't a question. "Victor doesn't know about this account," she said. "It's the only thing that's mine." She walked over to the window and started peeling back the brown paper. A strip of sunlight hit the floor, then another. "You deserve windows, Eric," she said, her back to me. "You're the only one who ever looked at me and saw a person, not a prop. You deserve to see the sky." We spent the next hour sitting on the floor. It was strange. We were 2 blocks away from the building, but it felt like a different planet. She told me about the legal battle. It was getting ugly. Victor was fighting for every penny, every piece of art. He wanted to win. He didn't care about the marriage. He cared about winning. "I'm not going to be free for a long time," she said, staring at a patch of sunlight on the floor. "I can't promise you anything, Eric. I can't be whatever we were trying to be." "I know," I said. "I can't have you in the penthouse. I can't have you in my car. I can't let you lose your job." "I know." She looked at me. Her eyes were wet. "But I couldn't let you go completely. I'm selfish." "You're not selfish," I said. I reached into the box of supplies she'd brought. Mugs, a kettle, a lamp. I pulled out the lamp and set it on the desk. "This is a good start," I said. She smiled. It was a small, fragile thing. "I figured you'd need light for drawing." "I do." She stood up, brushing dust off her jeans. "I should go. If I'm gone too long, he starts texting." The mood shifted. The reality of the building rushed back in. She was still Mrs. Costa. I was still the handyman. She walked to the door. I followed her. She stopped with her hand on the latch. She turned to face me. We were close. Close enough that I could smell that jasmine scent, mixed with the dust of the new room. She reached out. Her hand hovered for a second, then she touched my collar. She straightened it, just like she used to. A reflex. A memory. My heart hammered against my ribs. She didn't kiss me. She leaned forward and rested her forehead against mine. She closed her eyes. I closed mine. We stood there, breathing the same air. It wasn't sexual. It was desperate. It was the feeling of 2 people drowning who finally found a piece of driftwood. "Thank you," I whispered. "Don't thank me," she murmured against my skin. "Just make something beautiful here, okay?" She pulled back. Her eyes were clear now. "One rule," she said. "Yeah?" She tapped her knuckles against the glass of the front window. Tap, tap. "If you're here late, and I can get away, I'll tap twice. If you want company, you open the door. If you don't, you keep working. No questions asked." "I'll open the door," I said. She gave me a sad, knowing smile. "We'll see." She slipped out the door. I watched her walk down the street, head down, coat pulled tight. She didn't look back. I locked the door. I turned on the lamp. For the first time in years, I wasn't listening to a boiler. I was listening to the world. The studio became my secret life. By day, I was Eric the handyman. I fixed leaks, I unclogged drains, I rode the service elevator and nodded politely when I saw Helena in the lobby. We were careful. We were perfect. Marta watched me like a hawk, but she had nothing to see. "You're looking tired, Eric," she'd say, sniffing around for gossip. "Working a second job?" "Something like that," I'd say. She didn't know that my second job was sitting in a white room 2 blocks away, drawing plans for a future that didn't include service elevators. At night, I went to the studio. I bought a second chair, a cheap one, from a thrift store. I put it next to the window. The first time she came back was 3 nights later. It was raining. A cold, coastal rain that lashed against the glass. I was sketching a kitchen remodel for a friend of a friend, my first real freelance gig. Tap, tap. The sound was faint over the rain. I froze. I looked up. She was standing there under a black umbrella. I ran to the door. I unlocked it and ushered her in. She was shivering. She was wearing a heavy coat over a dinner dress. She must have slipped out of an event. "I can't stay," she said, breathless. I needed to breathe." I plugged in the kettle. I made tea in the mugs she'd bought. We sat on the floor, backs against the wall, watching the rain hit the window. We didn't touch. We didn't talk about Victor. We didn't talk about the divorce lawyers. We talked about the rain. We talked about the sketch I was working on. "Move the island," she said, pointing at my drawing. "It blocks the flow to the sink." "You think?" "I know. I've lived in enough kitchens designed by men who never cook." I laughed. She smiled. She drank her tea, and for 20 minutes, her shoulders dropped. The tension left her jaw. Then she checked her phone, and the mask came back on. "I have to go." "Okay." She left the mug on the floor. That was the routine. Some weeks she came twice. Some weeks I didn't see her at all. I'd sit there working, waiting for the double tap. Sometimes I'd hear footsteps pause outside, and I'd hold my breath, but then they'd walk away. She was keeping me safe. She was keeping herself safe. Months passed. The seasons changed. The air got warmer. I started getting more work. Small jobs, decks, mudrooms. I told my mother about the studio. I didn't tell her everything, but I told her enough. "A woman helped me," I said, sitting by her bed at the care home. She looked at me with those sharp, knowing eyes. "Is she a good woman, Eric?" I thought about the envelope. I thought about the forehead touch. I thought about the way she looked at the rain. "She's a trapped woman, Ma. But yeah, she's good." Donna Rosa squeezed my hand. Her grip was weak, but her voice was steady. "Don't wait forever, meu filho. Doors that don't open all the way, sometimes they just pinch your fingers." "I know," I said, but I wasn't waiting. Not really. I was building. It's a Tuesday night, late. The city is quiet. The streetlights reflect on the wet pavement outside. I'm at the desk. The lamp is buzzing softly. A warm sound, not like the boiler. I'm working on a design for a small house. It has big windows. It has a kitchen with a perfect flow. I look at the empty chair by the window. We never labeled it. We never called it an affair. We never called it love. Maybe it's neither. Maybe it's just 2 people who found a window when everyone else was staring at the walls. I check the time. It's past midnight. She probably won't come tonight. Victor is back in town. I saw his car in the driveway earlier. I should pack up. I should go back to my basement, sleep for 5 hours, and wake up to fix the building's problems. But I don't move. I pick up my pencil. I keep drawing, because as long as I'm here, the light is on, and then I hear it, soft, hesitant. Tap, tap. I look up. She's there. Her reflection is ghostly in the glass. She looks older than she did the day we met. She looks tired. But she's here. I put down my pencil. I stand up. I walk to the door. Some doors don't slam or swing wide open. They just stay cracked, waiting to see who's still brave enough to knock. I turn the lock. If you were her, would you knock or walk away?